All right, welcome everyone. Today, we're going to go on a bit of an expedition, right into the ghost in the machine. We're going to explore the hidden poetry that's lurking inside our digital files, our archives, and yep, even our everyday computer glitches.
So our guide for this whole journey is the writer and archivist Dr. Daniel Snelson, and I love how he describes himself. Check this out. He frames his whole life in these beautifully technical terms. He calls himself a data shadow, right? Not flesh and blood, but a collection of files spread all across the network. It's a really powerful way to start thinking about who we are in this digital world.
And that question, it brings us right to the heart of what we're doing here today. I mean, what really happens when a poem becomes a file? When it stops being, ink on a page or sound waves in a room and turns into pure data, just ones and zeros on a hard drive.
Okay, so to help us wrap our heads around that, Snelson gives us this really cool concept. It's kind of a challenge to that overwhelming idea of big data that we hear about all the time. He calls it the little database.
So when you hear database, just forget for a second about those massive, statistical oceans of big data that companies use for analytics. The little database, it's something else entirely. It's not a global library. It's more like a carefully curated, hand-stapled zine collection you'd find in a cool little shop. It's human-scaled, it's got personality, and it's often, as Snelson says, all too much to read in the normal way. But it's way too weird and quirky for some big algorithm to ever make sense of.
And here's the really crucial part. A little database isn't just a passive box for storing stuff. No, it's an active, living, community-focused space. It's built for people to use, to share, to experiment with art and culture. It's not for machines to analyze on some massive scale. The whole point is connection, not just collection.
And Snelson points to some absolutely brilliant examples. You've got sites like TextZ, Eclipse, PenSound, and UbaWeb. Each one is its own little world, its own unique ecosystem. What they do is they take these historical artifacts, rare books, old audio recordings, weird experimental films, and they give them a whole new life, a new digital form that we can actually play with and interact with right now.
Okay, so this leads us to a really central idea for our workshop today, something I really want you to take away from this. The file format itself, whether we're talking about an MP3, a JPEG, a PDF, whatever, it's never just a neutral container. It's actually shaping the meaning of the art it holds.
See, every single digital archive is stuck in this thing we can call the archival paradox. It's this constant tension. On one side, you want to preserve something perfectly, right, with total high-fidelity accuracy. But on the other side, to make it easy for people to actually access and share online, you have to compress it. And compression always means you're losing some of the original data.
The critic Craig Dworkin just nails this idea. He says that these two impulses, to preserve and to distribute, are fundamentally at odds with each other. The very act of digitizing something for an archive, he calls it a kind of creative destruction.
But, and this is where it gets so cool, that destruction can actually be incredibly poetic. So check this out. There's an old recording of the poet William Carlos Williams reading a poem called The Defective Record. In the poem, he actually imitates the sound of a skipping vinyl record with his voice. Now, fast forward to today. When you listen to that as an MP3 file, well, an MP3 can't skip. The digital file is perfect. So the metaphor just breaks. And right there, in that break, this whole new layer of meaning just pops up. It becomes about media history, about the difference between analog and digital. The glitch literally becomes the poem. Okay, so if destruction can be creative, then let's try it. Let's get our hands dirty. We can actually use this idea of constraint, of transformation, even using defects on purpose to make our own poems. This is the hands-on part of our workshop.
For a little inspiration, just think about the conceptual writer Holly Melgard. She took this huge 925-page book by Gertrude Stein called The Making of Americans, and she applied one simple, brutal rule. She went through the entire thing and deleted every single repeated word, so only the first time a word appeared was left. And the result? It's this totally new, startling piece of writing that actually reveals this hidden structure inside Stein's original text.
All right, your turn. Let's do this right now. Find any sentence. I mean it, anything from a book you have nearby, an article on your screen, your last text message. Got one? Okay. Now apply a simple rule to it. For example, delete every other word, or maybe keep only the nouns. Just do it and watch what happens. You'll see this new, totally unexpected little poem start to emerge from the gaps you've just created.
So this thing we just did, applying a simple rule to a text, that's called procedural writing. and it connects us directly to the world of artificial intelligence and large language models. Because when you think about it, when we give an AI a prompt, we're giving it a set of rules and constraints and asking it to generate text. It's actually really similar to what we just did by hand.
The poet Charles Bernstein has this amazing way of exploring this idea. He created this poetic persona called Artie Intaglio, who is basically an algorithmic voice. And Artie asks this great question: how do you find the humanity, the mensch, as he puts it, inside the cold, hard logic of the machine? It's really all about finding the soul inside the software.
And this way of thinking totally reframes what we call AI hallucinations or errors. Instead of seeing them as failures, they become productive misfires. The wrongness of the machine isn't a bug, it's a creative feature. It exposes these hidden patterns in language and makes us totally rethink what authorship even means. The human artist's role shifts. We become more like editors or curators, searching for the poetry inside the machine's beautiful mistakes.
Okay, so what is all this stuff, little databases, file formats, glitchy AI poets, what does it all mean for us? Just living our day-to-day digital lives.
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is this. We are not just passive consumers of culture anymore. Not at all. Every single time you save a photo, share a song, or even just forward a meme, you are acting as an archivist. You are a curator. You are building your very own little database. And you're actively participating in the preservation and the transformation of our shared cultural memory. We're all in this together.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. The next time your video call freezes, or a file gets corrupted, or you hit one of those 404 not found pages, before you get frustrated, just pause. Take a second. Look closer at that little productive misfire. Because if a glitch is just a machine trying its best to follow a broken rule, well, you might just be looking at a poem. So what is your browser trying to tell you?